So the next book that I'm going to do is another book that I read in uni, in a Canadian literature course that I did. So it's called Roughing It in the Bush by Susanna Moodie, who was actually a migrant from Britain, and she moved to Canada and talked about her experience of roughing it in the bush. So I'll just read a little bit from that. So this is almost like an autobiography, really. So where will I start? Actually, the beginning of the book starts with some poetry, which is quite interesting. Okay, so she does quite a bit of poetry throughout the story. So I will read a poem that she wrote called "The Lament of a Canadian Immigrant." Though distant, in spirit still present to me, my best thoughts, my country, still linger with thee. My fond heart beats quick, and my dim eyes run over, when I muse on the last glance I gave to thy shore. The chill mists of night round thy white cliffs were curled, but I felt there was no spot like thee in the world, no home to which memory so fondly would turn, no thought that within me so madly would burn. But one stood beside me whose presence repressed the deep pang of sorrow that troubled my breast, and the babe on my bosom so calmly reclining checked the tears as they rose, and all useless repining. The stern voice of duty compelled me to roam from country and friends the enjoyments of home. But faith in the future my anguish restrained, and my soul in that dark hour of parting sustained. Blessed Isle of the Free, I must view thee no more. My fortunes are cast on this far distant shore. In the depths of dark forest my soul droops her wings. In tall boughs above me no merry bird sings. The sigh of the wind, the sigh of the wild winds, the rush of the floods, is the only sad music that wakens the woods. In dreams, lovely England, my spirit still hails thy soft, waving woodlands, thy green, daisied vales. When my heart shall grow cold to the mother that bore me, when my soul dearest nature shall cease to adore me, and beauty and virtue no longer impart delight to my bosom and warmth to my heart, then that love I have cherished, my country for thee, in the breast of thy daughter, extinguished shall be. So I'm just going to read a little bit of the introduction as well. In most instances, immigration is a matter of necessity, not of choice, and this is more especially true of the immigration of persons of respectable connections, or of any station or position in the world. Few educated persons, accustomed to the refinements and luxuries of European society, ever willingly relinquish those advantages and place themselves beyond the protective influence of the wise and revered institutions of their native land without the pressure of some urgent cause. Immigration may, indeed, generally be regarded as an act of severe duty, performed at the expense of personal enjoyment, and accompanied by the sacrifice of those local attachments which stamp the scenes amid which our childhood grew in imperishable characters upon thy heart. Nor is it until adversity has pressed sorely upon the proud and wounded spirit of the well-educated sons and daughters of old but impoverished families that they gird up the loins of the mind and arm themselves with fortitude to meet and dare the heartbreaking conflict. The ordinary motives for the immigration of such persons may be summed up in a few brief words. The immigrant's hope of bettering his condition and of escaping from the vulgar sarcasms too often hurled at the less wealthy by the purse-proud, commonplace people of the world. But there is a higher motive still, which has its origin in that love of independence which springs up spontaneously in the breasts of the high-souled children of a glorious land. They cannot labor in a menial capacity in the country where they were born and educated to command. They can trace no difference between themselves and the more fortunate individuals of a race whose blood warms their veins and whose name they bear. The want of wealth alone places an impassable barrier between them and the more favored offspring of the same parent stock, and they go forth to make for themselves a new name and to find another country, to forget the past and to live in the future, to exult in the prospect of their children being free and the land of their adoption great.